It's time for Pod of the Dead. Join us!
Hello and welcome to Pod of the Dead. I am your host Nicholas, and with me as always are the two beautiful ladies, Stephanie and Natasha.
Hi guys.
On today's episode, we are covering the 2018 horror drama film, Hereditary. This is the second film for Unsolicited Nick Pick March. So this is all the ladies' choices. It's ladies' night all month.
Yay!
Two for one drink specials.
Yay!
But this was a Natasha pick.
Yep.
Going into this, what did anybody what did you know about it? Had you seen it before? What's up?
So this is my, I guess, second and a half time watching it. I actually woke up to this movie about halfway through the first time I saw it and needed to figure out how they got to where they were. I woke up to sounds I didn't want to hear. So once that happened, I had to go back and rewatch it. And this is a movie that I really enjoy, and it's one that I think you can pick up a bunch of different things each time you see it. So I'm excited, a little interested to see what you guys have to say about it.
Yeah, I had never seen this movie before. I knew it was A24 film, so kind of going into that, I knew it was going to have some interesting depth to it, like most A24 films do. But I didn't know anything about this movie. I wanted to go in blind because it's been such it was I would say a more popular A24 film. So that was definitely my pickup from it. I didn't know. It just started, and that's where I learned about the movie.
Yeah, and that's kind of the way to go into it. Like, the first time I saw this movie was opening weekend in the theater. I was already into, not to be like that, but I was like, ooh, it's a new A24 film. I was already familiar with some of their films and stuff that had come out previously. So this was one of the first ones, though, that I got to see in theater. And I actually was not, I don't want to say not ready for this film when I saw it, because that makes it sound like, oh man, it was so blah, blah, blah. Not that at all. Mine was, I didn't know what I was watching to get into. So the first time I watched it, I was like, I don't know about this movie. And I've seen it a couple times since. And the more I see it, the more I like the film. This was a very interesting, and every single time I've watched this film, it's completely different. Not just the film, the experience of watching the film.
Yeah.
I've watched this film, like I said, in a theater with it wasn't a full, but it was half full.
Okay.
That was kind of an interesting experience. I watched it all on my own. Steph and I just watched it last night. All those different, and I think I've seen it one other time with a group of people at home or whatever, but every single time, completely different. This movie is a different film person to person. That I can see where some people can watch this movie and just be like, it fucking sucks. I'm not, if you're going into this expecting Nightmare on Elm Street or something like that, it's not that, because it's
a think piece in a lot of ways. So you have to go in to pay attention.
It's so drenched in being a drama. The way that I refer to it is it's a horror film masquerading as a drama.
Yes.
Yeah, that's really good.
That's true.
Because the first half of this film, you're not 100% sure. So this is a horror film. Is it horror because it's too relatable to real life? Is that what this is? And then as the film goes on,
it turns finally.
And it starts showing its true colors and stuff. And you're like, oh shit, there's no denying that this is a horror film.
Correct.
And the cool part is it's not this big, at least for me, it wasn't this big Pandora's box opening to then shit happens. It's these little nuggets. And that's why I think watching it more and more, you start to see those little nuggets pop in earlier and earlier in the movie too.
Correct. Yeah. You don't realize the subtle foreshadowing in this film until the second and third viewing, where you're just like, oh my God, how did I not notice this? How did I not notice that?
Right.
And we'll get into those details when we get past spoiler territory.
Yeah.
But this movie, like I said, first time viewing it, I was like, it was all right. And then, like I said, every time I watch it, I'm like, you know what? This is actually pretty good. This is actually pretty good. Now, some people say that this is the greatest horror film ever made. I don't necessarily agree with that. I can see where people come from, though. If
I can see that too. Like the understanding of like how they created this in general, and like how they play on grief and like the other things. I don't want to share anything because we're not in spoiler territory, but I think that it could be for some people. Yes, it's definitely not mine. I can tell you that right now, but it could be for some people. So
it's definitely up there for me.
Okay, that's good.
Like, I watched some interviews with Ari Aster, the director of this movie, and he had some very interesting like ideas about what he was trying to do with this. So he described this film as a family disaster that curdles into a nightmare.
That's true.
And I can't, like, that's such a perfect way of describing this film without telling anybody anything about it. And then when hearing that some people said that this film was traumatizing to them, Ari Aster said, "I have this sickness inside of me and I wanted to put it into everyone else. I want to poison people's brains and I want to make something that lingers with people."
Dude.
Yep. He accomplished that.
Now,
that's a really interesting take, because usually it's like, you know, I had this concept, I wanted to see it on paper, but to be like, I had this feeling inside of me that I wanted to make everyone else feel.
Because he said like, it's not that his upbringing and stuff paralleled what happens in this film and stuff, but he says that there was a period in time where his family was having so many misfortunate things happen to them that they themselves felt that their family was cursed. And that is one of the things that started the thought process of making this film. He didn't come up with the narrative from front to back. He had these set pieces in mind and started piecing it together. And then from there started writing because he wrote and directed this film. So this is definitely a film that, like, if say he wrote it and someone else directed it, I don't think it would work. And vice versa. If he directed this is such a singular idea that for someone to write this and then also convey it from page to film, like, that's where I always like the idea of the I don't even know the word, but like the what do they call it? Like not a savant, but like somebody that like is the writer, director, like they do all of it because it is one singular vision. Those people don't really have to concede to other people's wants and stuff. It's like, no, this is what I had. Like Hitchcock was that way. Carpenter's that way a lot. Spielberg can be that way. There's always these directors that write their films. Jordan Peele is that way. Yeah. Quentin Tarantino, like there's all these people and you can just see it in the film. It's like, no, why does like Ari Aster, why are his films like so Ari Aster? It's like, because the motherfucker wrote it also. Like, it's that, like, why is Tarantino's films shot a certain way and the dialogue's a certain way? Same with Kevin Smith, right? Because they wrote it knowing what they wanted it to look like. And that's kind of what this is like, this is somebody that had, and this is his first feature film too. He'd only done a couple shorts prior to this, so to come out on the big stage, as it were.
Yeah, he came out swinging.
And this being your film, this is a very bothersome, like, it is a horror film in the purest sense of horror. Like, I guess that's my best way of putting it.
Yeah, because it lingers. Yes. It gives you that icky feeling for a long time after.
And it does what I think all great films do. It makes you want to talk about the film or your reaction to the film.
That's true.
I really don't think, I don't want to hang out with the person that watches this film and it ends and they're just like, it was a movie. It's like, there's so much going on in just like the family dynamic and all this stuff that there's just a lot there to parse through and actually have a conversation about.
This is one, though, that right after the movie, I don't like talking about it. Like, I have to either talk about it as it's happening or let it kind of process for a little bit. Like, I wouldn't be able to watch this and then hop right onto the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it needs to kind of simmer a little.
Steph needed a palate cleanser after watching the film.
I bet, yeah. So did I, and I'd seen it multiple times.
Yeah. So, what do you girls think the budget for this film was? A24, it was shot like in 2017, probably. It came out in 2018. So what are you thinking?
A24, I always think is, because I hold most of their movies in high regard, and then their budgets are like nothing usually. So I'm going to go with 4 million.
2.8 million.
Wrong. 10 million.
Oh, damn. That was way higher than I expected. Okay.
Yeah, so he was talking about like
we really do.
We do.
To make a film like this was a lot of work to actually get financing and stuff for, because of what this film depicts and everything. Because he's like, this film could have been a lot bleaker. It could have been a lot darker. But at that point,
yeah,
but
really,
at that point, how do you recoup the investment towards the film? So this film at the end of the day still has to be enjoyable enough to bring people to watch it. And I get what he's saying. Like, I don't think he's saying that the film was written darker and he eased it up. He's saying that, like I said, the first act of this film is just completely gut-wrenching, traumatizing and stuff. And basically what he's saying is like, I mean, that first act could be the whole film if I wanted it to be, but you're not going to have
it is to a degree, but it's just, it takes a turn.
Yeah. Like, just if you just kept going and making, like, because there were questions that Steph had about this film after that first act that was just like, is it going to continuous, like, are we going to see X, Y, and Z through this film? And I had to basically just be like, I can't tell you anything about the film. She asked me one question and I was like, no, that doesn't happen. She's like, okay. We'll talk about that in spoiler territory.
Yeah.
But, okay, so $10 million budget. What do you think it made?
72 million.
I always go high, so I'll just go 100.
100 million? You guys are kind of splitting it. It's $82.8 million.
Okay, that's pretty good.
This was the highest grossing film for A24 up until Everything, Everywhere, All at Once.
All at Once, yeah. That movie.
Oh, wow.
But that movie's a weird fever dream, so yeah.
I still have to watch that one. I haven't watched it yet.
It's crazy.
It is the most batshit crazy movie I think I've ever seen. Yeah.
Hot dog fingers.
The fact that you said I have to make sure I pay attention to every bit of that movie is honestly a giant turnoff for me watching that movie.
But it's just
like, what, 2 hours, 2.5 hours?
Yeah.
But it's just fast paced the whole time mostly. Yeah. And then you'll have a few down times. But that movie, your eyes are open and you're just like, what the fuck is happening? What the fuck is happening? What the fuck is happening? And it's just insane. Like when we watched it a while ago, I was kind of like, I don't know how to feel about this. I feel that way about a lot of A24 films. Realistically, it's like you watch them and then you get to the end of them and you're like, what the hell did I just watch? And then you have to take a lot of time usually to like digest just the concept of the movie. Even like The Witch, even though that's a slower film.
Definitely The Witch.
Yeah. And like you have to like kind of piece different things together. And I think that's what I really appreciate about the movies because they're so well made. But man, that movie was... Yeah, and this movie's like that too, so...
A24 has a really good eye for films because like how it works and stuff is like, so Ari Aster gets the financing for this film. He makes it. It goes to Sundance and stuff like that. And then distributors and stuff go like, well, we want this film. And maybe multiple people want the same film. So then there's a bidding war and everything. And A24 is one of those companies that like they see something and they're like, we want this fits what we cultivate. Like I always just look at it as like a record label is the best way to put it. Like,
okay. So is Magnolia another company like that, or is it a production company?
I believe so.
I've always thought that those ones were just like A24, blah, 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 Magnolia. I always thought those were production companies,
They're not the ones
mass producing.
They're not the ones making the films. They're the ones buying the films and putting them out there. And then they get their return on investment. And then, like that's how all that works. So they foot the bill or like they buy the rights to the film, basically.
Okay.
And then it goes
after it's already made.
Correct. And then sometimes, with like Paramount and stuff like that, when certain production houses or whatever have so much money, then they're able to actually finance, like we want this movie, like look at Warner Brothers. We want this movie made because we own the DC universe. So we're going to pick this director and this writer to make this movie, and we're going to finance it and blah, blah, blah. So
Gotcha.
there's different ways, but A24 is the one, like they go out to like Sundance and they go to like Cannes and all that shit. And they go, yep, that's the one. There's a lot of buzz about this film. We saw it. We like it. And then they try to do their best to get their hands on it. And they have definitely, over the last 5 years or whatever, gathered up some of what I consider some of the best, like fresh breath of fresh air horror films. Because only one horror film has outdone this one for A24, and that was last year's Talk to Me. Talk to Me is like made more money than this one. And I fucking love that movie. I just got the Ultra 4K Blu-ray in the mail the other day. I can't wait to watch it again.
Ultra 4K.
We will cover that film whenever it hits a streaming service. I've just been patiently waiting to have it on streaming because I saw it in theaters, and then it just wasn't happening fast enough. So I was like, fuck this, I'm buying it.
It wasn't happening fast enough.
Yeah.
But anyway, all that being said, Tasha, what the hell is Hereditary?
So, Hereditary is... Lock my phone. Sorry. Hereditary is a 2018 American psychological supernatural horror film written and directed by Ari Aster and his feature directorial debut starring Toni Collette, Alex Wolff, Millie Shapiro, Ann Dowd, and Gabriel Byrne. Byrne? Byrne.
Let's say it's Byrne.
Byrne. Okay.
B. Ryan.
Iron.
Put up.
The film follows a grieving family tormented by demonic entities after the death of their secretive grandmother.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's
and I love Toni Collette.
Yeah.
She is phenomenal.
I didn't realize until probably when we covered Krampus. Like I knew she was in this. But I still didn't realize up until then that like she was the mom from The Sixth Sense. Like,
yeah,
like it's one of those.
She's the main character in The United States of Terror, which is where I first found her.
Okay. I remember hearing about that show. It was like on Showtime or HBO or something like that.
Yep.
Yeah. So, this movie, like we said, came out in 2018, which we've covered before. We've covered films from 2018. A Quiet Place came out the same year, so this is back-to-back 2018 films.
Okay.
So I'm not going to go into everything that we just went into the last episode, but I mean, it definitely was in the top 10 horror films box office for that year. It came in number 7, raking in it's previously stated 82.8 worldwide, blah blah blah. What I do have a little different for this week though is since this came out in the summer, it came out, let me see here, I believe it was June 8th of 2018. I do have what the summer blockbusters of 2018 were that it came out with. So this movie, obviously, it comes into like the 20s of the summer because it's a quote unquote independent release and stuff like that.
Okay.
And it can't really stand with, we'll just go through the top 10 films that came out between May 4th, September 3rd, and what fucking money they made.
Jesus.
Number 10 was The Meg.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that was okay. Yeah.
Number 9 was Ocean's 8.
That movie wasn't good.
Number 8 was Hotel Transylvania 3, Summer Vacation.
That did better than that. Okay.
It's the first one I've seen out of all 3 of these.
So now this is where shit.
I had a 3-year-old in 2018.
This is where shit starts going like, oh yeah, no wonder. Like this is where you start seeing your blockbusters. Mission Impossible, Fallout.
Of course.
Solo, A Star Wars Story.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Nope.
Ant-Man and the Wasp.
That movie was
that one.
That was horrible. Okay.
Deadpool 2.
Yay! Okay. I kind of figured that. Okay.
Avengers Infinity War.
Oh Jesus. Lord. Oh my gosh, yeah.
Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom.
Garbage.
Okay. Yeah.
And Incredibles 2.
Oh, that's cute. Okay.
So
There's
like
a ton of superhero movies that year.
Yeah.
Man.
we were definitely in the throes of like because like, okay, Infinity War comes out. So we're literally just right at that peak of like the whole first thing. So this was right around the time that I stopped giving a shit about Marvel films. Like once the Infinity War and all that stuff happened, like that two-piece happened, I was like, all right, I did it. I did it. I watched my 20 films there. Cause like from the get-go of those movies, it's like, Thanos and the Infinity Gauntlet's like, I'll watch them until that happens. And then it finally happened. I was like, I'm good. I'll watch them if I want, but I'm not gonna. I made sure to go to the theaters every time to see those because
Gotcha.
I was a Marvel kid growing up.
Yep.
But yeah, fucking. So all that shit's coming out and Hereditary comes out.
Yeah.
So
That makes sense.
It's actually really shocking still, like to see all of that stuff for it to still make 8 times its budget. Like
that's good.
It made shy of $100 million, which is crazy considering all of the popcorn films that came out that year. I mean, you're getting a Star Wars movie. You're getting like fucking 3 Marvel films. It's crazy.
You're getting a big shark movie.
And big sharks and dinosaurs.
And dinosaurs.
I know.
And Tom Cruise.
And Jason Statham and your favorite, Chris Pratt.
I fucking hate Chris Pratt. Oh God, no. He's the worst character in the Marvel. This is not a Marvel podcast.
Really? You think he's the worst character in the Marvel universe?
He just does not like him at all in any movies. He does not like him.
Did you at least like him as Andy?
Yeah, I liked him as Andy in Parks and Rec.
Okay.
I like fat. I like him fat.
You like him fat and funny?
I like him fat and married to what's her name? The girl from Scary Movie and all that shit. Oh,
I don't know. Who is that?
I can't remember.
Aubrey Plaza is who he ends up with, but are you talking about the one beforehand?
In real life.
Oh.
He's married to a Schwarzenegger now.
Yeah.
But
I didn't know he was married beforehand.
Yeah, he was married to the girl from like the House Bunny and I can't remember her name.
Mia Farrow.
No, not Mia.
Anna Faris?
Anna Faris. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. They would have been cute together.
Yeah, I like him in his Anna Faris age. Once he marries a Schwarzenegger and then he's just a piece of shit. I fucking hate that guy.
I like him. He just doesn't like
Mario.
him.
Fuck you, Mario.
I like him as Star-Lord. I don't care for him in the Jurassic World universe.
Yeah. Anyway, so this is a movie club.
Yes, it is.
We watch a film and then we talk about it.
Yes,
at the end of that is very true. All these things. He's just lying. He's just lying to the audience now. He's pandering.
Tasha's confirming that you're honest.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Tasha Snopes. But at the end of this episode, we will be giving out our homework for next week.
Yep.
So if you have seen Hereditary, stick around because we will be having an open discussion, very open discussion about this film.
I'm going to apologize now. I'm going to be trauma dumping on you guys. So you're just going to be aware of that when we go into this film.
Yeah, this is a heavy movie. If you haven't seen Hereditary, I just got to say, be prepared. It is sad. That's all I'm going to say. But if you are also, and I think this is needed to be said, that if you're one of those people, we've kind of prefaced this in some of the movies we watched before. If you're in the middle of a battle of grief or you have some triggers when it comes to emotional things that have happened to you in your life, please go look a little bit more into this, or at least listen to our podcast before you watch it, because I do think that that's necessary for this movie, because you don't need to go into a downward spiral because you're watching a movie about something you're currently already going through. Yeah, and with that being said about that, if you are in a spot of grief, depression, despair, and stuff like that, remember that there is always help. There are people that you can talk to and stuff like that. If you are in a bad place, do not watch this movie.
Yeah.
This is definitely, it's not going to make things better. Let's just put it that way.
No, it won't. And I'm not in a bad place, and it still didn't get me in a good place. So yeah.
So with that being said, if you haven't seen Hereditary, it's currently streaming on Max. I think you can watch it other places as well, more than likely. But go check it out. If not, if you have no interest in it and you just want to stick around, that's cool too. But we are going to get into Ari Aster's 2018 film Hereditary. So spoiler warning, spoiler warning, spoiler warning. You've been fucking warned. All right. So Hereditary.
Yep. So if you want to be a part of our club, you can find us at facebook.com/podofthedead or else on Instagram at pod_of_the_dead or on TikTok at podofthedead. If you want to email us any questions, any complaints, or movie recommendations, you can email us at podofthedead666@gmail.com.
Stephanie, is there anything you would like to say?
Well, I want to do our reviews first, and then we can get into that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Then
let's start
that.
with that 1 out of 10 then.
Okay. That works. I'll do it. Hold on. It's a really long one too. And I don't think I'll agree with any of this stuff, but we'll find out. Maybe they also had the same stuff as I did, and then they just said, "Fuck this movie. I'm giving it a 1." I don't know. We'll find out.
It could be. I could understand that if this movie triggers you hard enough, this could be the worst film you've ever seen because it made you relive the worst moments of your life.
Right, yeah.
Possibly, yeah. It says, vapid, noisy, hysterical, and irritating. The James Corden of a horror movie. I was... What?
Wow.
I was looking forward to this movie. Someone who had seen it in the States said that it was grim. Another said that it stayed with you long after you've finished watching it. Having watched it, the movie, I can now say that it is grim, but not in a good way. It's the most pretentious, overly dramatic, and ultimately vapid film I think I've ever seen. He obviously has no experience.
Can we start keeping like a rolling tally of how many times an A24 movie is called pretentious?
I know.
Yeah, it is. It's like every single time someone doesn't like it because, and I guess this is where
it's too in depth.
This is where people start using the phrase like elevated horror, which I don't like. Nobody really likes, but that's where it comes from. It's like, oh, it's pretentious. And I'm going to say it a million times. If this is pretentious, then so is Rosemary's Baby. So is The Shining. So there are plenty of other films, but A24 definitely gets the daggers thrown at it for this.
Yeah. Okay. So I cannot believe that this is a very long review. I got like 6 more paragraphs.
Jesus.
In fact, it reminds me of when I was at university studying film analysis. There was a drama department within the arts faculty. You just knew that the small minority of quiet and introspective drama students would go far, whilst you got the feeling that those who were loud, strutting, and attention-seeking weren't interested in acting at all, but only in being center stage. At the end of the year, the drama students who had to write and stage their own production, which they would also act in. Hereditary felt like the kind of end-of-year production that one of the extroverted dramatists would have produced if it had been picked by a film production company and allowed to pollute cinema screens worldwide. They are very...
I guess I can understand where the person is talking about this.
Oh, we're not even done yet.
I know, but where they're talking about it being dramatic and stuff. But
it's touted as a drama.
Well, and also, how else is like the shit that goes on in this movie? I don't think that they're overacting.
No. Hysterics are ramped up to the max, whilst tension, they like to use the word
Wiltst. I think they're British because they talked about going to university.
There you go.
Someone in the States told them it was grim.
There you go. Hysterics are ramped up to the max, while tension, I'm just changing the word.
There you go.
Tension and depth. But it says, the things that are good horror should hinge on are nowhere to be seen. In fact, the only tension I experienced were by a couple near me who insisted on talking during the film.
Ooh, that was
and they left. They left halfway through. I was gutted and felt like running after them to try to persuade them to come back in. The Hereditary.
Well, hold on.
But why?
So this person gives a 1 out of 10. It's pretentious. It's overly dramatic, but you're willing to. I don't get this at all.
Okay,
you're judging the neighbors that left.
Yeah, with Hereditary, the film also seems to throw so many ideas into the pot
that it really is a case of let's throw all these ideas at the wall. Some are bound to stick. It didn't work. In this age of remakes, sequels, and reboots, especially within the horror genre, original and new ideas are paramount, and it can still be done. Some critics and reviewers think this film might be the start of such a renaissance. It isn't, and I pity them. I'm now going to watch Muriel's Wedding, a genuine masterpiece that doesn't squander Toni Collette's considerable acting chops. Hereditary is loud, hysterical, hyperactive, and desperate for your attention. It's clearly the James Corden of a horror film.
Okay, hold on. So I have a really, really big problem with them saying that they're throwing too much into this movie.
It is a lot of stuff. I mean, realistically.
But like narratively and stuff, it isn't. It's just like a family dynamic, and this thing is happening. The way that they're making it sounds like they threw vampires in it and werewolves, and now there's space aliens, and there's all this stuff. It's like, no, there's a fucking demonic presence going through. It's a witchcraft kind of film.
Yeah.
With a grieving family. That's it. Like it's
all those, like I said, it's all those little nuggets that all tie together.
Yeah.
So it's true. There's a lot of little bits, but it's all one cohesive. Like they all fit together.
This person's review comes off like somebody that saw this film and was like, I could do better, like that kind of shit. Because like they even said that they went to university for film and all this stuff, or theater and everything, and it's like, it's just so pretentious and stuff like that. It's like I don't see it. Like I really don't.
No.
Okay.
And the overacting or the like loud, over dramatic parts, I don't understand either, because it's such a somber movie.
Well, and like
the majority
saying that they squandered Toni Collette's acting chops. She's fucking amazing in this movie.
Yes,
she is.
Like everybody, all like the husband is kind of forgotten in the film, and not forgotten, but definitely like downplayed and stuff in the film, because he's almost like your proxy. He's the one watching everybody else go through it, because he's the only one that like wasn't
normal.
Yeah.
Isn't tied to it as much.
Yeah. So, but like even then, his performance is amazing. Fucking the son, holy shit. His like all of them. Like I just don't. I would like to see what this person thinks a amazing like this is something that I always have a problem with, is like they'll bash on this film and then they'll be like, I'm going to watch this other film that's not a horror film and say like, and this is like a masterpiece. Okay, can you tell me what a masterpiece for horror is for you? Because maybe you just don't like horror films like that, and that's fair. That's fair. If you don't like horror films, that's fine, whatever. But you can't say this movie's dog shit, I'm going to watch a masterpiece like The Incredibles 2. It doesn't fucking, like, they're not the same at all.
Yeah. Okay.
No.
Definitely agree.
What do we got, Tasha, for 10 out of 10?
Sniff first.
We got some sniffles. That's what we got.
Yeah.
got Tasha over here doing cocaine.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like in the camera, because I have to sniff and then like I'll get a little dribble on my nose.
And she starts rubbing her gums.
Yeah.
She's like, no. I gotta feel alive today.
Yeah.
All right. So 10 out of 10. Hereditary is without a doubt one of the most frightening, deeply disturbing, and evocative pieces of horror I have ever seen. Instead of scaring you right away, the film slowly takes its time to build a bone-chilling atmosphere and genuinely get under your skin. Hereditary uses its isolating cinematography, tense dialogue, and blood-curdling soundtrack to quietly whisper to you that something unspeakably horrifying is bound to befall its cast of characters. So there's more to it, but that paragraph is like a stark contrast to the 1 out of 10. And I think it's really cool how they parallel. This one's talking about it whispering quietly that bad things are going to happen. The other one was like, it's so loud.
Well, and the sound design, like they were talking about, we didn't really have it. We just watched it on TV without a sound system and stuff. But like the sound design in this film has so much like sub bass in it that like rumbles, that is intentional to like kind of make your gut unsettled and stuff like that. So like even in the sound design in this film, they're trying to make you uneasy.
Yeah, and that sound starts to become, so we listen to it with a sub and a small sound system, and that does start to just become kind of background noise as a part of it. You kind of forget that it's there in those parts, and I think that's really well done, where you almost become habituated to it, but like your body still is reacting. It's really cool. The characters themselves are impeccably acted and written to feel like real people. Each of the characters have their own multi-layered fears and traumas that they attempt to deal with throughout the story. The film explores how a family can slowly be driven apart through grief and tragedy, as well as the horrific consequences this can have on the lives of each of the family members. These themes are conveyed through palpability. Palpably.
Oh,
Okay.
it's palpably. It's palpable.
Yeah.
Therefore, it's palpable. Yeah.
I've never seen that word written out. These themes are conveyed through palpably uncomfortable dialogue between characters and the raw, visceral acting performances of the film's two leads, Toni Collette and Alex Wolff. While Hereditary is slow-paced, an unrelenting tension and dread present within the story, as well as the mystery behind what exactly is going on, are enough to keep you thoroughly invested. The second and third acts of the film are truly terrifying in a way that few films can hope to match. I 100% agree with that. The ghastly imagery and scare sequences are so nightmarish that they are capable of staying in your head for days after watching the film.
True.
The characters feel so real that it is as if you are watching real people having their lives being torn apart.
Absolutely.
Overall, Hereditary is not for everyone and isn't an easy movie to watch. It's very clammy, unnerving, and disturbing. But if you're looking for a well-written and mature horror story that grounds its terror in human emotion, this movie's for you.
I think that's a better way of describing these horror films is mature. It is a mature horror film.
Yeah.
And grounding in emotion.
Correct.
Where it's not necessarily something you're seeing, it's something you're feeling. And that's one of the reasons why I like this movie so much. I like and have to be prepared for, but I really like movies that stick with you and give you this feeling. Like Train to Busan. I was pissed through the majority of it. I was sobbing through the majority of it. That's what I want out of a movie, more than just pure terror.
Yeah.
And this really gives it to you.
There were some 10 out of 10 reviews on this that were like, this movie is amazing. I will fucking never watch this again.
Right.
It has that ability, and I 100% understand that. Like, I'm not going to watch this movie for a while. Like,
No.
like it is a rough watch. This is not a film to watch to enjoy. Like, it's a film to watch to enjoy because you enjoy films. But
or you're like torturing yourself.
It's like I would actually like to see, because this is obviously some people's favorite horror film and stuff. I guarantee the people that say that this is their favorite horror film, it's not solely because of the story. It's got to be a lot more with the way the family dynamic is set up and the cinematography and the sound. That's where this film
really well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But I can't think of anybody being like, this is my favorate story in horror. Because it's like, are you okay?
What is wrong with you? I
know. Do you need a hug? Because, good Lord.
Maybe they have some psychological issues and then they can relate to this movie or something. And that's why they feel seen, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But the story is really good. Yes. I don't necessarily know what you mean by for it to be somebody's favorite story. You mean outside of it giving you just cringy feelings, just being I love the story.
Oh, it's so great when the girl's head gets knocked off and then the mom says, I wish you were never born. I tried to have a miscarriage every single time I could. And it's so fucking devastating.
Everything about this movie is devastating.
This film is an emotional car accident.
Yeah, that's a perfect guess. It's
a very slow one.
I didn't think it was that slow.
No, a very slow car accident.
Oh, yeah.
The movie, there's time. It's not quick and then it's over. It's you're in it.
Yeah, that's true.
A while. Yeah. So let's get into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that.
So
where to begin?
Yeah, so Toni Collette had told her agent getting into this film that she didn't want to do any more heavy, dark films and only wanted to do comedies. But she loved the script of this so much that she couldn't turn it down. Okay. So it would be interesting to see what this movie would have been without her. And the fact that she didn't win like an Oscar for this and stuff is just another showing that horror is snubbed like all the time, because Jesus Christ, her and Alex Wolff fucking act their asses off, and I feel so bad for both of them I feel bad for everybody in this family the entirety of the film.
Yes. It's just a tragic, the whole fucking movie's tragic. Like, literally, we're opening up this movie and I'm like, I don't know what we're going to watch. I don't know anything about this. And there's this lady standing at a fucking podium after her mother dies. And she's just talking about how estranged she is from her, but then how they built their relationship back up. And there's weird people in the audience. And she's like, well, my mom and I didn't really have a great relationship until I had my daughter, because I did, and then you kind of see all this like unfolding, and all I'm thinking is about like, I don't have a really good relationship with my mother, and like all of this stuff. And I'm like, oh, that's fine. Like, that's not a big deal. And so then like I see the necklace that she's wearing and I'm like, that's going to have some significance in this movie. And like it gives you an eerie feeling just walking into this movie. You're dealing with a fucking funeral. Like, it's not even like they don't pull no punches. It's like they're throwing you directly in the fucking middle of a traumatic experience in life.
And it's also like the funeral. If I get, since that's the beginning, that might be the happiest moment of the film.
Probably.
Realistically, because
it's just slowly moving you into to fucking trauma.
It is just downhill from the fucking opening. It is the only other film that comes to mind with that kind of stuff is Requiem for a Dream.
Yep.
Where it just starts and you're like, okay, what am I getting into? And it just keeps spiraling down and down and down, to the point where when the film ends, you're just like, what?
I put those movies in the same category in a lot of ways, where they're beautiful, they're amazing, but I can only watch them a couple of times. Requiem for a Dream, you mentioned the people being like, I love it, I'll never watch it again. That's Requiem for a Dream for me. And this is a pretty close second. I'll watch it again, but it definitely is a heavy hitter. Yeah. It
was like, you see this little girl in this movie, and like you can tell there's something wrong with her. Like, and that was another thing I thought was interesting. Like, she's eating chocolate, and the parents are like, does this have nuts in it? And she's like, no. And they're like, well, we didn't bring your EpiPen. And then the whole time I'm like, well, we're foreshadowing stuff in the storyline already. We're getting there, right? And it's just, it is a build from there. And certain things with foreshadowing I don't like, because it's like too much, or it's like takes away from the suspense. I don't think that did this in this movie at all, because of the dramatics that got built up from here. But this whole movie is just one big depressive load of emotions. And I'm just like, it's just a lot. And like it was just a lot. Really, really was. I don't even know what to say about the movie realistically, because it's just a lot.
So yeah, they're showing that she's eating chocolate. She's got she has anaphylaxis to nuts and everything. She goes to a party that she doesn't want to go to, but her mom wants her out of the house with her brother. She thinks that it's a way to keep her brother from drinking and partying, which it does not, because he's going to be smoking weed at this party and stuff. And while that's going on and stuff, they're giving out cake, and he's like, hey, Charlie, go eat some cake. They're giving it out, and she's like, it's not for like, you can tell like she's just uncomfortable and everything. And she's 13 years old at a high school party, and she doesn't know anybody, and she just wants to hang out with her brother here because she's uncomfortable. So he goes and smokes weed with the girl that he's into. She goes and eats cake, and that's where everything starts taking off. So you get the foreshadowing of her, like, that the family is kind of irresponsible when it comes to her anaphylaxis and stuff like that. That they don't have an EpiPen. Like, this is something that should be on her person at all times.
She's 13. She can carry her own. Like, that's weird.
And it just gets to the point where, she like, it's so like, she comes in and tells Peter, she's like, it feels like my throat's getting bigger. And then he loads her up in the car, drives off.
And he's doing the best he can.
Correct. He's really trying to take care of his sister at this point. He didn't mean for this to happen. Nobody meant for any of this to happen. And they're driving down the road. She's fucking like can't breathe, sticks her head out the window to try and gather some air, which I can understand with having like panic attacks and stuff like that. The last one that I had, which was a while back or whatever, I literally, like, I remember telling Steph, I was like, I can't breathe. I cannot breathe. So her panicking like that, she's sticking her head out the window, and
she literally can't breathe, though. That's the difference.
Absolutely, yes. But I'm just saying that panic, is very real. Like this is going back to the over dramatics and stuff. It's like, no, this is very real and stuff. She sticks her head out, and he swerves the car to not hit something that's in the road, and she smacks her head.
Oh, Tasha's gone.
I see that on the telephone pole, and
Right. And even before that, like watching her suffer alone with so many people around her right there, like I was just sweating bullets for her, knowing like what could possibly happen. And as she's like trying to get water, like all of that leading up to her, like her going to see her brother is just so heart-wrenching, because you already feel for her because she's kind of an oddball. Like she
more than that. She's cutting off bird heads and
there's an
stuff.
explanation for that because you don't know that going in. Yeah.
Later.
She seems like, maybe there's like a mental disability here or something. Like she's so detached from,
Right. So like even like then she's trying to figure out how to like solve this problem on her own. Something's not right. I'll do this, and this. And then leading to, okay, hey, my throat's closing. And did you know that scene with with Charlie getting decapitated is based off of an actual thing that happened? Yeah, it was two high school kids that were drinking, and his friend was in the back seat, and that's what happened. He swerved to miss something, just like in the movie. Swerved to miss something, hit, and so that's based off of a real thing.
Not to throw any names out there or anything, but there was a car accident somewhat similar to this with some kids that I went to school with. That they were drinking and driving and stuff. One of them, I'll tell you about who it exactly was, Tasha, but the one that was drinking and driving used to go to our school and then transferred to another one for his last couple years. And then the other kid still went to our school, and the car rolled, and one of the kids was thrown out of the sunroof, and the car crushed him and killed him. And so like that's kind of I remember that happening and how that kind of reverberated through the school. So it's that shit's heavy, like, to.
Yeah, I agree. Well, that's kind of partially why this triggered my own trauma response, because like my dad died in a car accident and wrapped himself around a tree when I was 16 or 15 and a half. And then I also lost when I was in another relationship a long time ago, a girl that I basically helped raise. She got in a car accident in her early 20s with her mom in the car and stuff, and she flew through one of the windshields, and we spent 3 days in the hospital, like basically her just waiting for her to be declared brain dead so we can then harvest her organs and for that kind of stuff. So like all that with the head trauma and like the accidents and stuff. And it was like reliving for me my own personal trauma, because like they pulled her life support on my birthday. And so like it was just a lot of like that stuff, like pulling itself in. And then there was other aspects of this movie that did that. But it's like, if you have, because I have a lot of traumatic deaths in my life, like this movie definitely touches on a lot of that. And that was what was triggering for me. And then after this happened and we're like watching this movie, probably like the first 30 minutes, I was like, I was like sobbing profusely. And I was like, Nick, he paused the movie. He was talking to me about it.
Colette breaks down in her bedroom.
Oh, okay.
And is literally just like, I want to die. Like she's just losing her shit. And I kind of just look over to Steph and I can tell like she's holding it back, and I just pause the movie and I'm just like, are you okay? And she just kind of let loose, and we had a discussion about all of this and stuff. And
yeah, it was horrible because like I said, this like brings up stuff like I was, when you lose like a parent and you're the person being told when they died, like you're the one that has to go through all of those emotions and everything and have to deal with that. And like the same thing with like having to hear other people like experience that. Like it triggers things. Like my mom was screaming bloody murder on the phone when she found out my dad died, and they weren't even in a relationship. Or like my like listening to my, like I said, my long-term past relationship, sobbing in the shower, crying and screaming because his child died. Like those are the things that like you don't realize when you're watching certain things, that you're going to basically bring things in my personal life, back to the forefront. And like, and so when we were sitting there talking and stuff, like, obviously this kid, he decapitates his sister on accident, and then like he goes home and just climbs into bed, and the mom finds her body, and I'm just like, this is fucking horrible.
He's literally just in shock.
And understandably so. But then he also holds himself fully responsible for her death, and then that makes it even more worse for me personally. And this is where my sobbing started, kind of, because when I'm not going to say her name, but when she died, his mom blamed him, even though he wasn't the one driving the car. He wasn't even in the car. Her brother for her dying, because the mom said she was distracted from his drama in his own life, and so he ended up taking his life 18 months later because he held the guilt of his sister dying. And like, so like all of this stuff, and I'm just like, this is the shit that I've dealt with in my own life that I had to deal, and the whole funeral concept of like not being able to have an open casket and all those things because people having traumatic injuries and all this stuff. So it was just a lot of like a perfect storm for me personally. But then I asked Nick, and I was like, you have to fucking tell me, like, is this kid, this boy gonna commit suicide?
Is that what this story is? And I was just like, no, he does not do.
No. And I was like, I cannot watch this.
That was basically like all I could tell her. I was like, I knew where she was going in her head. I was like, there isn't technically, I mean, there is suicide in this film from this point forward, but due to demonic possession. Not in the same thing. So that's not really, but like, it was one of those things. I was like, no, it's not good. And I also told her, I was like, this is all the setup for everything else. She's like, is it just going to be like this grim the whole time? I was like, this is where it's actually going to start becoming a horror film. And
because in the Knot, it's just grief. It's like, here, let me throw you in the middle of somebody's fucking life that's fucking horrible. And I lived a lot of fucked up shit, not exactly like them, but like horrible shit that happened in a very short period of time. And then like, but what was crazy to me is like, was really upset. And then as the movie went on, I was fine. Like, I was like, okay, we get into the paranormal parts, or like this, whatever, supernatural, whatever the fuck you want to call it, parts. And then you could definitely start picking out the pieces. And like, a lot of the stuff was very disturbing, but like, you don't pick it up until they kind of hand it to you a little bit later. Like, it's like, what is going on? Oh, that's what's going on. Oh, what's going on? That's what's going on. Like, it's a lot of that. And you're following this line. And then the dad part at the end, I actually thought would be triggering for me, because like, I didn't know that was going to happen, but it did. And the dad dies in a fire, he catches on fire. And so like, my stepdad died in a house fire, literally also. So I was like, but I was already past sobbing for like 20 minutes. So I think that I was done with all of the emotional trauma, but
to ruin you.
Dude.
Yeah, it literally was.
Sorry.
It's fine.
Damn.
But nobody would know that, like, unless you have been through really fucked up shit. There just happens to be 2 parts in my life where like, and everything comes in threes, and like, I lost 3 people, or 3 very important people, in very traumatic ways. One, in 2001. And then just a few years ago, within, I think it was like 18 months, we lost another 3 people between, brain dead, car accident, house fire, and then suicide. So like, it's a lot of shit. And this movie definitely, because of how real it feels with like the grief and like what people go through and like all of that. And that's what you have to give merits to this movie, because a lot of movies can touch on grief and touch on a lot of things that are fucked up, but you don't get that feeling from that. So that in itself speaks of the level of quality of this movie. This movie definitely picks you up and
drops you in it. You don't feel like it's interesting how this film kind of sets itself up as you are watching this dollhouse. Like, it literally, that's how so it literally just goes like, okay, and this is what's going on in this world, and you just kind of get lost in it. And like, I myself have not had any sort of things like Steph in that degree. and stuff like that. But it like I know I know grief, not as well as some people, obviously, but and I don't want to. Let's just put it that way. I would rather not.
Yeah.
But it's insane. Like Ari Aster had Alex Wolff and Millie Shapiro, the brother and sister, for a while before this film was made them stay in character and go do things. And because this movie was shot in Utah, so he would be like, all right, and he would only talk to them as their characters. Like, Peter, I want you to take Charlie, and you guys are gonna go. I want you to go get her, like, take her to go get a new sweatshirt, stuff like that. So Millie would just play the role and just be a pain in the ass, basically, is how they even worded it. Just like very nonverbal and stuff, very disassociated and stuff like that. And it built this tension between them. So when they started shooting the film, they already had this emotional, like, back and forth of being siblings. And you see that especially in the party scene where he's like, just fucking go over there, I'll be fucking 5 minutes. Can you? And to
that sounds like Sydney and Wes, really. It'd
yes,
be like,
absolutely.
just go away, Wes. I'm gonna go do this, and you just go sit over there and eat something. Like, that's what it
sounds
reminds
like Nick
me of.
and me.
Yeah, it's
like, that was my life.
Yeah.
But like, it's just really crazy. And Millie Shapiro, Charlie, in this film, I didn't know much about her and stuff, but she'd won a Tony Award at the age of 10.
Jesus.
For playing, I believe it was, what was it? Madeline or something like that.
Okay.
Or no, what's the one with the girl, and there's like the orphanage kind of person that's like making people eat cake, and Tony Matilda, that's it. She played Matilda.
Mrs. Trunchbull.
Yeah. So like,
Love
I
that
got
movie.
like, she's like, and she did fucking amazing in this film. It'll definitely I'll never hear the sound of a tongue going normal ever again.
That was so
Yeah.
weird. But I liked it because then it gave you an understanding of like when that is coming back into the storyline later on.
Well, like, and I was super aggravated at the beginning of this film because our dog Wade was just going to town on a bone, and he's a French bulldog, and so it's just like like nonstop. And I'm like, dude, you have to shut the fuck up. There's so much like silent stuff happening in the background that needs to be heard. So so it's just like he went to bed during like
That's funny.
like he came out
he was
later.
way too loud.
But he was just
We're like, he can't help it. He can't breathe very well either. So it was like, he's gonna be loud this whole time. So Winston's over here chewing on a bone and you can barely hear him. So we're like, you're fine. It's okay.
Yeah, it was like having a lawnmower in the fucking living room.
Yeah, it was literally. They're so loud you don't realize it until like you're watching like The Quiet Place or you're watching this movie.
Yeah.
But
But yeah, so there's a scene like, so okay, there's a reason why Charlie is so detached and stuff like that, and that's because she was born basically with a demon inside of her, or she was born and then her grandmother put a demon inside her, however which way you want it to go, because she had previously done this to her own son, who later commits suicide because during a support meeting, Annie, Toni Collette's character, recounts her brother's suicide at age 16 and states that in a suicide note, blaming their mother for putting people inside him.
Yeah.
So with that, we are led to believe that Charlie was born, and then it was even like she wouldn't let Annie feed her, that her mother had to feed her, and there's even a diorama of her with her breast out and stuff like that.
So gross.
So there's this weird family dynamic there. So through all of this, through all the ritual stuff, a demon, a king of hell, is basically put inside of Charlie, and that's why there's this disjointed like character. That it is literally a demon inside of a child.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And I think it's the second one, like you said, like Grandma put
correct.
Paimon into Charlie because Charlie mentions like she was really close with Grandma and that Grandma wanted her to be a boy.
Yeah, and she was her favorite.
Right, because Peter had no relationship with Grandma. Annie wouldn't let Peter be involved in her mom's life. So I think it is, well, this is my only shot. My son died.
Mm-hmm.
Now I have my granddaughter who I'm close to. Let's see what happens there.
Yeah. It's just...
It's a fucked up movie.
When you start getting all those pieces together, it makes a lot of sense in the back. But like, that's where it's like, this movie's so hard to watch for some people that, like, for instance, Steph will never watch this movie ever again.
Right.
Maybe not, yeah.
But upon second viewing, knowing where it goes, the amount of things you pick up.
Yeah.
For instance, the telephone pole that Charlie hits her head on and is decapitated by has the symbol of the cult, which is like the crown, kind of like, it's like almost
3 or 4 heads.
Yeah, it's like pigeon heads, like in a crown and stuff like that. It's on there. And I didn't know that until researching this and stuff and then rewatching it. I was just like, holy shit, because it's kind of subdued. It's just kind of in it and everything. And it's fucking everywhere. There's so much stuff in the background. Yeah.
So speaking of the little things in the background, what do you think the little words scribed on random walls is? That's the one thing that I haven't been able to figure out.
I'm wondering, I meant to research that, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
There's so much though. Was it Joanne or Joni or however?
Joan.
Joni. It's very, I think that stuff was written by grandmother as almost like runes, like ritualistic writings, because it was very important that when Annie reads from the sheet that it's at home and her son is there. So
everyone's there.
Well, but specifically her son. She said, make sure everyone's there, especially your son. It doesn't matter that anybody else is there, actually. It's that Peter is there and it's at home. So those writings and stuff they look like they're in Latin, like because it's like pandemonium and stuff like that. Yeah, what do you got? What is it saying?
So you're right. One of them is pandemonium, Satani, Zazex, and Lifcock, and they mean open and chaos. So you're right. It's opening the ability.
Correct. So like, yeah, it's using the house as almost the beacon to bring Paimon from Charlie into Peter, because they only used Charlie to fucking hold him there until they could get him into his suitable male host.
Mm-hmm. But then what's the point, I guess, with grandma, the decapitated grandma being upstairs on the floor?
I think a lot of that has to do with just the symbolism of the god or the demon and stuff like that.
Okay.
And the way I saw it was there's all of them. So being decapitated plays a big role in this movie. There's the bird, there's Charlie, there's Mom, and there's Annie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
which
all three
I woke up. So I looked it up a little bit, and Paimon was supposed to have 4 heads, or there's something about 4 heads in that mythos. Mm-hmm. So I think they all had to be there headless. I'm the way that I perceived it was like those heads were an offering to then have Paimon be like in the pure form, like pure human form.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I guess like this is just coming off the top of my head. That grandma knows that this is going to happen to her child and her grandchild and stuff like that, and it's their 3 heads give way to the 4th head. So through the heretic bloodline, through their that's what it is. And it's not that they have to die by that way, it's that, like you said, their heads are an offering.
Yeah, that's
right. So speaking of headless, the first time I watched the movie and I said I woke up to a terrible part, it was when Toni Collette's character was
sawing off her own head. That was crazy.
What the fuck am I watching?
I know
that happened, and I knew what was about to happen. And Steph's watching it, and you could just hear the quick, and Steph's like, I don't want to see what's about to happen. It's like she's like,
you don't.
because you don't know what's about to happen. And like, to me, that scene is like the most ridiculous. It kind of gives me like a little chuckle because of the look on her face of it happening.
Oh my God.
Like, what the fuck?
It's so fever dream.
Yes.
Crazy.
Yes.
And the first time I watched it, I thought she was just stabbing herself. It wasn't until the second time that you hear the thunk that she's taken her head off.
Well, it's piano wire, because previously you see the piano's knocked over and the wires are ripped out.
Oh,
or the
okay.
strings,
I missed that part.
you know. So yeah, it's piano wire. She just has it wrapped around. She's literally
Disgusting.
sawing through her own neck.
That was one of the more graphic scenes, honestly. Because like this movie has a few graphic scenes, but a lot of it's just alluded to. Like even with the dad catching on fire, like you see him afterwards, but like a lot of the movie is like that. It's like you see like the brief moment of it happening, and then you see the after effects. Like even with the decapitation of the daughter, like you see the aftermath of that. And even with like grandma dead, like you don't see her head there. You just see the headless body. Yeah. So it is weird. And I liked the whole, and then I knew it was something was dead in the attic, and I figured it was either the daughter or the mother. And with all the flies, I thought that was a really good touch, because like that would really happen. Like there would be flies upstairs. So I liked that. And the only thing that I guess because like this movie is just a crazy whirlwind of stuff. The play of like the miniatures and why that factors into the storyline. And then the other part is like the mental health component for them, like the women having because the little girl we know has a demon in her, so she's got mental health problems. But why does she sleepwalks and she like tries to catch her and her family on fire, like all kinds of weird shit? Like why?
Well, yeah, there's a history of DID in the family and schizophrenia and bipolar and all this stuff. So,
but is it
correct?
The summoning of spirits.
100%. Yeah.
You know.
So it's one of those things where like. What's to say, like, so we know like what happened to Charlie, and we know what happened to Annie's brother and stuff like that, but what's to say some shit isn't fucked up with Annie, because she was obviously raised by her mother to a certain degree and stuff. What's to say that there isn't something that's been bestowed upon her and they don't go into details of that, but you just know that she had a fucked up upbringing with her mother, then her mother was very secretive and all this stuff, and you later find out that she's like the head of this satanic cult, that it's not fake. Like they literally, this is a downer film from the word go. They get Paimon into Peter, and he is now a devil upon earth, and they like the bad guys win in this film.
Yeah.
In a big way.
Yeah. And you feel really bad for Peter. Honestly, out of all the characters, I feel bad for the mom, don't get me wrong, but I feel most bad for the son. I really do, because that scene at the table, Nick and I were talking about this a little bit last night, where she was just like, she's talking shit to her son. She's never really liked her son. I don't understand why. She's telling us, which ends up being a dream, that she wanted to abort him and tried to abort him multiple times. And like I don't, we don't really know if it's because she's afraid that he's going to be like her brother and like have all these mental health issues, or if it's just because she didn't want him. We don't really know. And she's sitting at the table and she's like, well, you don't take responsibility for anything that you do. And I'm sitting here thinking, well, bitch, you don't take responsibility for anything.
Well, she
he calls her out on that too.
She also doesn't just finger point to him though. She says nobody will do it. So she is definitely like, whether she's aware of it or not, she is implicating it on herself as well.
I don't look at it that way. I don't think that I think she feels guilty about certain things, because she says she is to blame, like when she's in that therapy session thing or whatever, they're going to the grief counseling. But I don't think overall she is taking responsibility as much, because and then she does. She's like, well, I understand that you didn't mean to do this, but I can't forgive you. Like, but yet you did forgive him, but now you can't make it make sense. And like, I just felt really, really bad for the son, because like he has just been handed a whole handful of bullshit.
Yeah.
And like, that's the reason why he's probably, self-medicating with weed and like trying to stay away from her and like dealing with his own issues. Well, and like,
he's living PTSD through the entire film, because the crux is that Annie sleepwalks, and at one point she goes into Peter and Charlie's room, covers them in paint thinner, covers herself in paint thinner, wakes herself up by lighting the match, and she even says that like, and it wasn't my fault, I apologize, but he will not forgive me. And like Steph even says like, I wouldn't fucking forgive her.
No.
And that it's hard. That's such a hard thing, because if she is actually sleepwalking and stuff, it's like, how do you hold someone responsible for something that they're not in control of? But like, also you're a child, you can't, like, that is such trauma that.
But then go ahead.
And even not necessarily thinking about it as like forgiveness, but just being fearful by your protector. Like it might not even be like that, but just you could forgive somebody but still be terrified because of the inconsistency. You don't know if it could happen, especially when you're sleeping.
When you're supposed to be the safest, the person that's supposed to keep you safe is the one.
Right.
You know, and like another little like way to look at this film, since we're talking about Peter and stuff, is that Ari Aster said that it's a story about a long-lived possession ritual told from the perspective of the sacrificial lamb. Yeah. So like Peter is the sacrifice to it all. Everybody else's death and misery is all for his sacrifice for Paimon.
Yeah. And then he jumps out of a window, and then the fucking thing goes inside of him, and then he climbs into this weird thing out in like their whatever that's called.
The coolest treehouse ever.
Yeah.
Clubhouse.
Yeah. And then there's all these headless people. It's just and naked people too.
Which, did you guys, I didn't pick this up until this last time. The naked guy that's standing in like the pantry or whatever, he's also at Grandma's funeral at the beginning.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
I think all the same people are.
Yep, they're at the funeral. There's one of them that's at the school beckoning him forward. Like, it's a really long shot, and he's like waving, like literally doing this number. And it's like this shot that just kind of sits on it for a second. He's there. It's all these people that know that Peter is, like, to the point where
needs to be the person.
Yeah, and it's like, was it Joan like says like, you know, Peter, we expel you. They're pushing his soul out of his body so Paimon can take it over. So there's all this shit.
I think at that point Paimon's already inside of him.
Yes.
And I think
Paimon
was in Charlie. Okay, because that's what that like ripple light is.
Correct.
Yes. Okay.
Yep. And that's why he's
then like
banging his head and doing all that stuff.
Yep.
And Paimon is presenting himself when Peter's looking at his reflection, and the reflection's smiling back at him.
Correct.
Which, I don't care what movie it's in, that will always be creepy.
Yeah, I love
detached smile.
I love the portrayal of the demonic, and it just being this like weird lens flaring light that goes down and around and stuff like that. It's so effective, because the first time you see it, not knowing what this film is or anything, you see it, you're like, what the fuck is that? And it does such a good job of making you go, what the fuck is that? And by the end of it, you understand what the fuck it is, because even though it's a little expository and stuff at the end, when they're crowning him and everything, it's almost needed. Maybe not to the extent that they do go, but it is kind of like, oh, okay. Because like if they didn't, the film would end and you'd be like, so why is Peter crowned? It's like, oh no, that's not Peter anymore. Peter hasn't been with us since the flower bed. Like,
right. And I thought that was the part that kind of like, if I have to pick out anything that I wish would have been a little bit better, would have been the ball of light going into him.
Yeah.
I don't think that was needed, because in my mind, it was already inside of him.
Gotcha.
So, but that's the only little nuance that I would have changed. But like him going up, the ending, how they're all chanting, I loved that part. I think, or how she's like yelling, I loved that part. So I think that part was necessary and very well done.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying the chanting and stuff. It's the part where she's just literally like, Paimon, you are here, blah, 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 give it like all that kind of stuff, because it really does just kind of like tie everything up. And it's for good or bad. I'm not going to knock it points or anything because it did that, because like I said, it feels like it's kind of necessary, because how little it explains what's going on. Everything's like in the periphery. Like, you're just watching this family fall apart while everything else is just on the outside happening. Right. And then it finally comes to a crescendo there at the end, and you're like, wait, what? And that's where like the second viewing, you go, oh, you're able to actually finally look outside of the scenes and go, oh, okay, this is going on here. Like Steph even said, like seeing the necklace. Oh, that really fucking matters. All of these things, every little, like the point where like Charlie is making a diorama with the pigeon head with a bunch of headless little figurines bowing to it is literally the same exact scene that happens in the treehouse later on the film. I didn't notice that the first time. I just noticed the pigeon head and like, that's fucking gross and weird. This weird fucking kid is cutting off a pigeon head. There's a reason for it though.
Things, yeah.
And drawing the pigeon head with the crown, which is Peter at the end. The first time you've so beautifully described my experience watching this movie the first and the second time. Because the first time the movie ended and I went, who the fuck is Paimon? What did I miss? Because I feel like I missed a really big part of the movie.
And
so
it's meant to make you miss it. It's not but at the same time, it's not withholding stuff. It's just
right. Like she opened the book right to it and described who it was.
100%. And you're just
and
like,
it was highlighted, so you could read that. So it's like
highlighted,
right
underlined.
there.
Yeah.
And I was just like, that's not important.
Exactly. It's like, it needs a male host. It's like, hi, I don't know. Are there any males in this film?
Yeah.
Why is Peter bashing his head on the table? I don't get it.
The king of hell. What the fuck is that?
Right.
But yeah. Like, this movie's really good. Like, it definitely, I can't say that. It is good. Good Lord, but Jesus Christ, it is rough.
It does what it's supposed to do.
Yes, it like he said, he wanted a film to fucking sit with you, and he had this trauma in him that he wanted to put on everybody else. Now you can fucking hate someone for that, 100%. Like,
it's not an enjoyable ride.
No,
but it's a good one.
Yes.
How is that?
That doesn't even sound
that a thing?
That doesn't even sound right. It's a well-made, terrible ride.
It's an amazing pice of emotional art.
There we go.
There you go.
Whether it gets a visceral response out of you or not. I can't imagine something like I've said this a million times. I can't imagine this not getting a visceral response out of somebody in some way, whether it's the emotional aspect, whether it's seeing Charlie's head, whether it's Toni Collette fucking sawing her head off. Like it's so unexpected. Every single thing. To go back to Charlie's head, though you don't see it until way after it happens. She hits her head.
Yeah.
Peter's in shock. Peter lays down. Tony wakes up, or Annie wakes up, goes downstairs, and you're just watching Peter's face, knowing it's about to happen. She's like, I'm gonna go to the store and everything, and you just hear it go and go. She's breaking down in the living room, and then it just cuts to her head on the side of the road being eaten by ants, and it's fucking horrifying.
Yeah, and his face and Peter's face of just pure disassociation. Just there's a little bit of fear, but it's just blank, which he does that so well. He emotes not emotion so well.
Well, and also like his like trying to disassociate and like seeing his tears well up all the time and stuff, where he's so scared, he's so traumatized and everything. He was 19 years old when he played this part and everything. The fact that like him and Toni Collette didn't fucking win, like I don't what the fuck, guys?
Yeah, come on.
Yeah, no shit. But has anybody else got anything else they want to talk about for this film?
I do not.
You want this out of your brain.
I really do. This is what happened last night. I was like, I know when I watch certain movies that I can relive some of the scenes in my head, and I don't want to do that. I don't. And like, there's a movie that Nick but put me through a couple years ago.
That sounds so much better.
Yeah. Objected you to.
Yeah. So that he had me watch, and it was really actually boring, and I didn't like it for most of it. But then the ending was like torture, and I was like, like literal torture. It was that fucking October thing or whatever you made me watch.
Oh, the house is October built.
Oh.
Yeah, fucking hated the end of that. I couldn't stop thinking about it forever. I had nightmares after it. And then like another movie that sticks with me, and I don't even know why, because it's not even that scary, but it's just like the visuals of it, was that underwater movie that we watched.
Oh, The Deep House?
Yeah, that one, even though it's the claustrophobia and then being underwater and all that stuff, like that definitely like sticks with me. And then even that Night House, I don't know why The Night House, but The Night House is another movie that stuck with me, certain scenes in it.
And maybe it's just the concept of the movie. I don't know. But
yeah,
this movie,
that's another one that it fucking sits in grief. Like
it does. Maybe that's what my trigger is, and I just can't do it.
And it is, like, not just for you, but like that is very triggering for a lot of people. Like, I straight up told you, I was like, we will not be watching this other film for the podcast, considering what happened with this. But like, The Babadook is it is about loss, and it just sits in that. And that is not for everyone. It's not even for me. It's not something that I watch, go into and be like, you know what? I want to feel fucking horrible, because I pay really good money to not feel horrible.
I know. And that's what I was with this last night. I was up till 4:00 in the morning because I'm like, I'm afraid to go to sleep because I'm going to have nightmares. I'm like, so we're going to stay up as late as we can to be as tired as we can. So then when I do sleep, I'm not going to have nightmares, because I do not want to think about those things when I'm sleeping. And so I was lucky I didn't have any nightmares last night, because I just waited until the point where I just couldn't keep my eyes open anymore. But yeah, I don't know if I'll ever watch this movie again. The only person I think I would recommend this movie to in my like immediate family would probably be Kylie, because she likes weird shit like this and she likes stuff that fucks with you. So she's a really big horror fan. I think she would like this movie.
I would actually be shocked if she hadn't already seen it, because of how popular and prevalent this film was. It's been on streaming services forever and everything. Yeah, I would be shocked if she hadn't already seen it.
Yeah.
But if she hasn't,
this movie was really well made. Like, I have to give it, like, the shots of it, the acting was superb. Like, it was just, if you have a grief stuff that you've had to deal with and a lot of like fucked up shit in your life, this probably isn't the greatest movie to watch.
Yeah.
So,
agreed.
So with that being said, let's get into our reviews.
Yay.
So, what do you girls give Hereditary?
I don't even know what I'm supposed to rate this movie.
I'll go first then.
Okay.
For everything that we just talked about, I don't know if I would recommend it to anybody, purely because it's very, very heavy, and I don't think I know anybody who I feel comfortable enough kind of subjecting them to this.
Would you recommend this to Mom? I would, with an apology to recommending it.
Yeah,
I'd be like, hey, Mom, you want something different? Like, because it is up her alley with the paranormal, with the demons and the culty stuff and all that stuff. But I would be like, hey, I think you should check this out. I'm sorry if it upsets you.
I don't think I would.
Okay.
I don't. Yeah, I think the scenes in it, specifically Charlie's scene, I think that would fuck her up.
Yeah.
Possibly the mom scene. But yeah, I don't think I would. I get it. I think I would want to describe it to her first and let her make that judgment call, but I wouldn't give it to her blind. Hey, go watch Hereditary.
I just know that she likes, like Rosemary's Baby and The Shining and stuff like that. So
yeah, I think she likes it like more on the surface.
Yeah. Demon
possession type movies. I think this one, I think this one might be too much. I will watch it again. Like we've said, I pick up something different every time, but I won't watch it anytime soon. It's still lingering with me, and I watched it Friday. Luckily, I don't have the component so much of where like I'll dream about it. I watch movies like this to almost have like a sense of catharsis. Like I don't know if you guys have this, but like sometimes you just like have those feelings bubbling. Mm-hmm. Or like you'll listen to certain types of music or things like that, and you need to get that big reaction to get it out, or that super low feeling to get super low to get it out. And this is definitely one of those movies for me. Hold on. So it has to be like a certain time.
Oh, absolutely.
When I need to watch it. But overall, I'm giving this movie an 8.5. It's beautifully made. It does exactly what it needs to do. It has that gigantic emotional component to it. It's just an all-around great movie.
Okay.
Beth, what do you got?
I don't even know. Like, I've been fighting with this. Like, on one hand, I can be like, this is a 1 because it's so fucked up. And then on the other hand, you have to think of like, no, is it something I would rewatch? And does that factor in what I rate? And, all of that stuff. So, I would say because it's really well made and it is
I don't even.
This is a tough one for you.
This is literally the hardest movie I've ever rated. Like most of them, I'm finished. I'm finished watching it. I rate it. I'm done. It's fine. And yeah, this is not. I'm just gonna throw 7.5 out there just because I feel like that's.
I just want to get it over
feels
with.
good right now.
Yeah.
I need to throw the score out so I can try and purge this from my brain.
Yeah.
So I
kind
can
of.
just stop talking about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But okay, so real quick, Steph, with what it does, granted,
Yeah.
with your history and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Do you think that it is what's the way to do you think it's a genuine use of this, or do you feel that it's in that previous review where it was talking about like overly dramatic and stuff like that, is it effective without being like exploitative? Do you feel,
No,
or do you think it exploits?
I think if you're trying to, I do think that they like. I think there's like a level, right? So like, say this is your middle ground of like what is acceptable in terms of pushing buttons in the grief aspect, like the Night House. We'll use that as an example. I think the Night House hits on that just right. Like I think it's like right there. It's like it's pushing you a little too far. It's pushing your buttons a little bit, but it's relatable, and it's that. I think because of like what they put in this movie, and then the possession part of it, and then the way people die, and like the graphic details of it, and then like just even the fact that this poor girl is gasping for fucking breath in the back seat concept, like all of these pieces, I think it takes it probably 4 or 5 steps higher than what I think should be okay to put in a grief movie just because of what it does. But do I think that does that make it bad? No. Do I think it makes it realistic? Yes. I think everything about this movie, when it comes to like the mom like forgetting the daughter's EpiPen, but they remembered to make sure she's not eating peanuts, like they're just worried about putting their grandma to ground, like they're not even thinking about those things. And then like just trying to get the daughter out of the house so she can just, and the son, to get them to bond together and just get them out of the house so they can go do stuff as the mom's like dealing with her own grief of losing her mom. Like all of like, I don't think people recognize the catatonic state that you are in when you are dealing with grief. It almost feels like this weird like fog that you're living in, and you're mentally exhausted and you're physically exhausted, but you can't sleep, and it's just fucking horrible. And it goes on for a very long period of time. And so not in the scheme of life, but it feels like it lasts forever. And so I think that like with the mom and the way she acts in this is very relatable. And I think the same thing with the son and the daughter is different because like we don't get a lot of her, I guess. And then the husband is the most relatable in the sense of he's the one that's most removed from the movie. Right. So he's like the guy that's like the standard guy. He doesn't have mental health problems. He's not a dad. He's a dad, but he's like, he didn't carry the kids. He doesn't have like this component. That's not his mother. Like he has, he feels for the son. He's protective and stuff like that. But I think that there is a definite component of that, that makes this even more relatable. Cause I think there is always that outside person that has less relatability or like literally skin in the game. So they're the ones that can be a little more clear-headed and view the things like the dad did in this movie. So I think the components of all of this, including the way the grief is portrayed and everything, is done extremely well. Do I think they take it way too far? Yes. But is it relatable and realistic? Also, yes.
Yeah. It's too real. That's
exactly.
Exactly. Yeah. That's fair.
I mean, even with the supernatural elements like that are added later, which kind of take the step back a little bit, and you can breathe a little bit because it's not real.
Yeah, you can't relate to it.
Exactly. It still has that component of like all the horrible stuff that's already happened regardless. Correct. So, but
fucking, what was it? I had something I was going to say. Oh no, it's escaping me. I guess it doesn't fucking matter. Everything that you guys said, I agree with. I agree with it is a highly, highly effective movie. People's mileage on that will vary of your own history.
Yeah, that's true.
The movie is beautifully shot. There are some scenes in this that are very reminiscent of Kubrick's The Shining. There are like the shot for me is near the end of the film when Peter is in the dark hallway and his sister's room is lit up and it's a little blue light through it and he's just standing in the hallway. There's so many scenes that are just picturesque in this film that, you know, Peter sitting in his bed while his mom is in the corner of the ceiling.
Oh, how did we not talk about that?
Yeah,
every time. So scary.
It's so scary. The scene where Toni Collette's character is looking and in the darkness, she can see her mother in it. All of that kind of stuff is so effective in just building this tension. Aside from just the grief aspect of this, that it fucking, like, I honestly don't think, and I don't want there to be a film that is as effective as this film is when it comes to that, because I think that this is, for me personally, is the perfect example of it, because if you go any further, I feel it'd be just exploitative and trying to top this, or it would just be done like, we have nothing better, so let's just make this as sad as possible. So with all of that, like, yeah, so many good scenes. I don't know when I'm going to watch this again. I know I will eventually, once, it'll probably be a year or so. For me to kind of forget scenes and stuff in this. But all that being said, I'm giving Hereditary an 8 out of 10. So that gives us a 24 out of 30. This might be one of our highest scored movies.
Yeah. That gives us a solid 80.
An 80? Yeah. I think we still have
We've been
movies.
doing pretty good lately, other than the last movie. But like other ones we've been doing pretty good on.
Yeah.
Train to Busan, we did good on. X, we did good on.
What counts as doing good?
I would
like
say
having high marks?
I would say all of us liking the movie.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Anything over a 75 is like our basically like our Hall of Fame in a way.
Yeah,
like,
I agree.
I think if you are emotionally prepared for this film, you are going to like it. I think where someone, like, I'm actually surprised you rated this as high as you did, Steph, because how upset it made you.
But I can separate myself from that, though. That's the difference. I think a lot of people can't do that, and I can. So I can understand that if a movie's going to give me that much, I'm probably going to have to rate it high because it has that ability to do so.
It's so emotionally effective. And for it to be that whole first act, right? You don't know these characters that well, but it gives you enough to feel horrible. Like that's that. Like we were just talking about this, because we looking up lists of like saddest films ever and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The difference between Old Yeller and Up, I think the Pixar movie Up, I think is cheap because it just hits you with it early on and everything. You don't get to know these characters and everything, and it's sad just to be sad, and then it goes on. I have a problem with that. Where Old Yeller, you have this connection to a character, so when the gut punch happens, it's so much more effective. This film, it's somewhere in the middle there because it does it really early, but it also, I guess if this movie like had all that happen and then it was the family just moving on and trying to make a better life and stuff, I think it would be kind of cheap. But the fact that like this is the stem of everything else that's about to happen and stuff, and like Annie even talks about like it's a shame that this wasn't something that brought us closer together, like that it's literally this family falling apart, but it's all grandma's fault. Damn it, grandma.
Yeah, like the grandma part, while it's tragic, and that's what the movie sets up as, it's just that. It's the catalyst for the story. So we build that relationship with Peter throughout the entire movie. We build that relationship marginally with Charlie in parts of it. So we don't ever really have a relationship with grandma. So that tragedy is tragic in a sense of not having a relationship with mom and things like that, where the real tragedy comes at like beginning of the third act.
Yeah.
So I think it, like you said, it does both.
Who was your guys' favorite actor in this movie?
My favorite actor personally would have to be Alex Wolff, the boy who played Peter. Not shitting on Toni Collette's character at all, but Peter, oh my God, I feel so fucking bad for him so much.
I agree.
I'm going to go with Toni Collette. Peter's a super close second, but those when she's on the floor crying, when she's like yelling at her son, all of those big emotions she does, and it seems so real.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah. I'm with Tasha on this. I agree. That's who my favorite one would be too. Just because she emotes a lot differently and like you're following her, trying to not let her life fall apart. Like she's really genuinely trying to do better, I believe. And she's just fucking it up. And like, you know, even with throwing the drawing thing or trying to find a way to connect with her daughter that's in the afterlife, like all of these things, going to the therapy groups, like she's genuinely trying to do better. And like, yes, she's not doing better for her son. She's just trying to do better necessarily for herself. It's kind of a selfish focus. But other than that, like I feel like she does a better job, but I actually feel worse for the son in this movie.
That's the thing I was going to mention is how well they do in this film of making you question, is she actually just losing her fucking mind?
Yeah.
Like when it gets to the point where she's talking to her husband, it's like, just go upstairs. You have to just go up there. And he goes upstairs and she just runs off to the fucking fireplace. Like the first time I saw this, I was like, this bitch is going to kill her husband. Like that's what I thought and everything. And the way they fucking set all that up. And he just gets to the point where he's like, I can't do this anymore. You're fucking sick. You know, we need to take care of like all that kind of stuff. And then it's just like, oh no, now husband's on fire. Now fucking mom's cutting her head off. Now it's just like, what the fuck is going on? So yeah.
Yeah. I feel bad for the dad a lot because he is the most like with it in this movie. And like he gets to see everything fall apart. I know. And that's the hard thing. It's like all these people are they're literally submerged in their grief. He is too, but he is also the more, you know, he's more wherewithal and like he gets to view it from a clearer perspective. And that's even scarier kind of.
And you still get to see like when he's bringing Peter home after Peter smashes his face and he almost runs that red light, you finally see him break down and stuff. And it's so like, it's just like, oh my God, like it just keeps like turning that blade in you. Like it does not give up at
or when
all.
he sees his wife making the death scene of his daughter like in the fucking miniatures and he was like, what the fuck are you doing? And she's like, this is an objective view of this. And I'm just over here going, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that people process grief differently. Like is it acceptable that she's doing that? No, but like I'm also not her going through this. Like she's having to process this some way, and it's crazy. It's fucking nuts.
It's just so fucked up. Yeah, it really
is.
Like
who's to say how you can process something like that in the like sanctity of your own home?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, and then the way you're taking it out on the people around you, like, and how they're having to handle it. So like, I think a lot of times, and this is my favorite part of the pieces of this movie, is like, everybody is dealing with their grief in their own way and nobody is doing it together. Correct. So that's what she's talking about, how like this could have brought us closer, but it couldn't because she's over in her corner dealing with her own fucked up shit. Dad's over here trying to be somewhat helpful, but he's still dealing with his own stuff by trying to be helpful to everybody else because he's the one like consoling her.
He's like drinking at work and stuff. It kind of shows
sleeping on the couch, taking pills.
Yep. Like everybody's like, trying to self-medicate and trying to separate themselves from it.
Yeah. And same thing with the son. He's like, you know, doing the drugs, sleeping in bed, you know, he's just kind of keeping to himself. Like everybody has instead of coming together and dealing with this collectively, they're all like living in their own personal misery, trying to deal with their own shit, and nobody's communicating. So I think that is another component of this movie that makes it more tragic, just because like had they had communicated better, I'm not saying the demon wouldn't have came or anything like that, because this is still a fucking demon movie, but like at the same point, like had the mom like actually looked through her mom's stuff or, you know, whatever earlier on, and would we have understood things differently? Like you could have had a different ending if you had
just boxing stuff up to fucking get rid of it.
Yeah. Yep. And like when she notices and like the rug outside of Joan's house and she says, my mom used to make things like that. She doesn't go to then do research to see if there was something weird then. She like, it's way after the fact of like all the fucked up shit that happens when she's always like it's like the oh shit's already happening. And now I have to figure out what the fuck did I just do? what the fuck did I
Right.
just get part of, when she could have, if she, was smart enough earlier on and had the wherewithal to kind of do it beforehand, and this wouldn't have happened to begin with. So
But at the same time, when we're talking about people going through grief and that brain fog and everything,
yeah,
it's there. It's like, it's just like, just trying to get through the day and like, I'm fucking just forgetting stuff and everything. So,
yep.
All right.
I think this is our second movie where we've had conversations where there's the dichotomy of, is it spiritual or is it mental health?
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think we had the same discussion with The Witch. I believe so.
A little bit,
probably.
Or like where it was environment versus faith or something like that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I really enjoy these conversations, as hard as they are to have.
Yeah, it's just this movie was fucked up, and then we just tend to have more conversations about things that are fucked up, I guess.
Absolutely. It's very, very, very effective. So,
Yeah.
Yep.
Last little thing before we go into movie club and stuff. Do you have anything you want to champion that you want everybody, maybe a palate cleanser for everybody after having seen and lived and swam through the murk that is this film?
I do. I actually watched this before the movie. We ended up watching Horrible Bosses directly after watching Hereditary.
It's a good one.
But there's a new docudrama out, I guess, about the creation of the BlackBerry, which doesn't sound interesting, but was really good. Yeah, the phone, the old phone.
Not the fruit.
And no, the invention of the BlackBerry berry. No, but that's on, I want to say Max. It just came out.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about it, but I really liked it.
Good.
Other than that, I've been delving back into my like old school music with like some old Jimmy Eat World and Aphex Twin, and all of that always makes me happy.
I need to be happy. This fucking film.
Right.
Mine that it's just one thing. There's two things that I could talk about. I'll just talk about one, and that's FX released a show this past week called Shogun. And it's basically like the 1500s in Japan, and you've got the Portuguese and the English kind of like trying to take it over a little bit without the Japanese knowing, and the Japanese starting to push back. It's a political intrigue show. It's not fantastical or anything like that, but if you do like that political, like pushing for position and stuff like Game of Thrones and stuff like that, I definitely suggest checking this out. It's amazingly shot. They also do an amazing job at when the Japanese are speaking, like it's all in Japanese and it's all subtitled, and they do a really good job at that. The only time you ever hear English is when they're talking Portuguese to each other or they're speaking English. So that's kind of like, there's all this like translation stuff. So you kind of get it. But like when it's in Japanese, it's in fucking Japanese, and it's amazing. I really, really like it. And the first two episodes came out. Third episode comes out this week, and I'm super stoked to keep on with this. So Shogun.
Yeah, I wanted to check that out too.
It's good.
Cool. And I have two things. So I can't ever end our conversations about this stuff without talking about monster porn. So
Hell
I
yeah.
don't know why. Yeah.
Welcome to Steph's Monster Porn Corner.
Yeah. So this is a good way to end this. So I read a book by somebody I've read before multiple times, but it's called Guarded by the Snake. Anyway, it is a monster snake in this book, and he works for he's like a bodyguard essentially. And I have never read a book about a monster snake and spicy bits that involve this snake, but I
can
really
only imagine.
Yeah, he has two things that's spiked and weird stuff, and he's got coils, and his armor is bulletproof, and like his scales are. And so it was interesting. I really appreciated the uniqueness of the story. It wasn't the greatest thing I've read, but I have to say it was just entertaining in itself because it's fucking ridiculous, but it was fun. And then we went and saw Dune Part 2.
Yes, it was amazing.
Yeah. So Nick is really into Dune. And so we watched the first movie together right after it came out. And then we watched it a few times together since. And then he wanted to see it this week, and I wanted to see this movie too. So it was actually, other than it being slow in a few spots, I think that it was better than the first movie, and I really liked it. It was good. And the dynamics of power in this movie was excellent. And man, they play on some
crazy ass shit. So yeah, it was so good.
If you like the first movie at all, you have to do yourself a favor and go see the second one in theaters.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
It is meant to be seen in a theater.
Mhm.
Period. And a discussion. There's only one other film that I've seen in theaters that I would say was a better experience, and that was Return of the King for Lord of the Rings. This is the second greatest theater going experience I've ever had, because it was legitimately jaw dropping in scenes and stuff.
Yeah, it is. The worms are just crazy.
God, so good, good. Do yourself a favor, go see Dune Part 2.
Sorry, yeah,
I say Part 1.
I call it Dune 2, and then
you
it's
haven't
like
seen
it's
the first
Part
one.
2.
Oh my god!
Oh, they're so good.
Tasha, just watch the first one. Goddamn.
They're really long though, so like you have to be okay with that.
Exactly.
But it's good, and I really liked it. So,
I explained it to Mom as it's like if you took Game of Thrones and Star Wars together. Star Wars is like heavily influenced by Dune. The Frank Herbert books and stuff are like came out like long time before Dune or before the Star Wars movies. And yeah, a lot of people are like, "Oh, Star Wars." It's like if Dune didn't exist, Star Wars wouldn't fucking exist.
Gotcha.
So
like it has to come from somewhere.
Correct. Mm-hmm. Dune is so good, and it's so much darker. It's so dark.
Okay.
It is.
Cool.
Yeah, I like it. It's good.
Right.
So,
All right.
Yeah.
Movie club.
Yeah. What are we watching? Something not fucked up. Well, kind of fucked up.
This is straight up a palate cleanser. This is a Steph pick for
Yay.
no unsolicited Nick pick March.
Yeah.
We will be watching Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Yay. I've never seen this.
Seen it.
No, I have no idea what I'm going to be getting into.
Yeah,
so we'll see.
You chose this because you're like, I keep seeing stuff about it and everything, and I just it looks interesting enough. Let's check it out. So this is a campy 80s horror. It's a horror film in the idea of what it is, but it is not a scary movie by any means.
Okay.
I will tell you, this is shit that you get from a trailer, okay? The movie is about aliens that just happen to look like really grotesque clowns. Their ship just happens to look like a big top tent. Their guns shoot and cocoon people in stuff that just happens to look like cotton candy. It's just ridiculous.
This is amazing.
Okay.
So do not go into this expecting what we just watched. This is such a ridiculously lighthearted. It is kind of creepy because of the special effects makeup for the killer clowns from outer space. But yeah, so we will be watching Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Little fact though, before we even get into it, is what this movie is mostly known for is the makeup design by the Chiodos brothers. That the band Chiodos took their name from this. So
at first I was like, what? How did they do this?
Yeah, so the Chiodos brothers are special effects brothers that have done a lot of films, and this is one of their most notable films.
Okay.
So there you go.
You can find it on Amazon Prime with a subscription, and it's free on Tubi. If you watch it on Tubi, it will have commercials.
Okay.
Which this is one of those films that like commercials aren't going to break the tension of the film because it's ridiculous. Honestly, I think you could watch this with Wyatt.
Okay, cool.
It's not like bloody and stuff like that. It's ridiculous. So
It's just a little, I just pulled up the picture. The clown's rather terrifying.
yeah. So
Oh, I just realized Drew has an irrational fear of clowns.
please record him.
Yeah.
I'll see what I can do.
Did he watch Hereditary with you?
Oh yeah, he watched it before I have.
Okay. Does he like the movie too?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah, he does. He recommended it to me, and he was the one watching it when I originally woke up.
Oh, okay.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is Ari Aster's same guy that did Midsummer, which Midsummer doesn't work like this film. So I think you got through. I haven't seen his newest film. It's called Beau is Afraid, but it's not really a horror. I mean, it's horror adjacent, I guess, but it's also like 3.5 hours long. I'm not going to fucking watch that. But Midsummer doesn't sit in this lane. So
No.
Keep that in mind.
Yeah, I just think I'm going to bow out of all of our grief type movies that are going to be.
We probably won't
heavy
watch
on
it.
that.
Like, we probably, unless the listeners out there really want us to cover a film that's like that, There's no other like grief, like pure grief movie that comes to mind that I want to fucking throw into the mix.
No, I mean, I didn't really know the Night House was going to be that when we got into it, and that didn't bother me. But like, it was definitely a little bit more on that realm. So,
Cool.
come back, listen to us next week when we cover Killer Clowns from Outer Space and all that jazz.
It's ridiculous.
For Pod of the Dead, I am Nicholas.
I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Natasha.
Come back and listen to us, or else.